Hello everybody and welcome to another video made by me, and this time about SMS Kaiser, a German dreadnought built by the German Empire and fought during the First World War. You don't know anything about it? Don't fret and panic because I will tell you a story, so sit back and enjoy it. Hopefully, just maybe, you will watch all the way through and maybe learn something because most of my viewers don't. It all started with the German 1909 construction plan, which included the last two members of the Helgoland class battleships, along with two more battleships of a new design. The new battleship class were to have steam turbines instead of triple expansion steam engines, and a much more efficient super firing arrangement of the main battery, same main gun arrangement on the Moltke class battlecruisers. The new armor layout had been improved significantly over early designs, and the Kaiser class was far superior in defensive capabilities than the British counterparts of the Iron Duke class and Orion class. For some little context, the World War I King George V class came a bit later than the Orion class. Anyways, the Kaiser class was ordered and under the contract name Ersatz Hildebrand as a replacement of the aging Hildebrand class coastal defense ship. Laid down in September of 1909 in Kiel, the ship was launched the 22nd of March in 1911, and that date was specifically the birthday of Kaiser Wilhelm I, and its grandson, Kaiser Wilhelm II, also attended the launching ceremony. 5 ships were built of the Kaiser-class battleships: SMS Kaiser, SMS Friedrich der Grosse, SMS Kaiserin, SMS König Albert, and SMS Prinzregent Leutpold. The length of SMS Kaiser was around 565 feet or around 172 meters, beam was around 95 feet or 29 meters, draft was around 29 feet or 9 meters below the waterline, and total displacement was around 27,000 tons full load. Anyways, main guns were 5 12-point inch or 304.8 millimeter twin guns, secondary guns were 14 of 5.9 inch or 149.8 millimeter casemate single guns. AA artillery were 8 3.5 inch or 88.9 millimeter casemate guns. Main belt armor was 13.8 inches or 350 millimeters thick and angled inward. Turret armor was 15.7 inches or 400 millimeters thick. Conning tower armor was of 11.8 inches or 300 millimeters thick. Power plants were of 16 water tube boilers, 3 steam turbines, and 3 screw propellers, at a total horsepower output of 27,617 horsepower and a maximum speed of 23 knots. Cruising range was 7,900 nautical miles at a speed of 12 knots. After sea trials and joining the active fleet in the 12th of December of 1912, Kaiser was stationed at Kiel, and then the ship underwent training individually. By February, SMS Kaiser was transferred to the Wilhelmshaven along with SMS Friedrich der Grosse. Kaiser then took part in several exercises with the High Seas Fleet. SMS Kaiser was selected to test the range and reliability of the new steam turbines, and the ship was joined by König Albert and the light cruiser Strasbourg. The trio departed from port and proceeded to the colonies in Africa, and that was the first time that German battleships ever visited the German colonies. They visited Lomé in Togoland, modern-day Togo, Douala and Victoria in Cameroon, modern-day Cameroon, and Swakopmund in German Southwest Africa, now modern-day Namibia. Then they took another trip, this time to South America, and from St. Helena, the trio sailed towards Rio de Janeiro and arrived on the 15th of February in 1914. Strasbourg detached for Buenos Aires. Then the ships met up in Montevideo, and Kaiser, König Albert, and Strasbourg all sailed around the Cape Horn to Valparaiso in Chile and remained there for a week. The ships then departed and headed back for Germany. Several more ports were visited, which included Bahia Blanca, I think I said that correctly. The ships then visited Cape Verde before arrival to Europe on the 16th of May and stopped at Madeira and Vigo in Spain. Kaiser, König Albert, and Strasbourg arrived to Kiel on the 17th of June in 1914. Later, the detached division was dissolved and Kaiser returned to the 3rd Squadron, where the ship participated in squadron exercises and finally joining the High Seas Fleet and had an annual summer cruise to Norway, just 2 weeks before the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The High Seas Fleet had conducted sweeps in the North Sea. While the first sweep they encountered no British vessels. They raided Scarborough, Hartlepool, and Whitby in December of 1914 as a part of operation to lure out the British Grand Fleet to be annihilated by the High Seas Fleet, and I think I said those British cities' names correctly too. Skirmishes had happened between the rival destroyer screens, and the darkness had convinced the High Seas Fleet Admiral Friedrich von Ingenol that they were facing off against the entire Grand Fleet. They broke off from the engagement with the enemy by orders from Kaiser Wilhelm II to not risk the fleet unnecessarily. I am not proud of how long it took me to get that last part. SMS Kaiser and the rest of the 3rd Squadron were the unit that led the way of the High Seas Fleet, while the 4 König-class battleships led the line. Battlecruisers of the 1st Scouting Group encountered the British force and exchanged artillery fire that destroyed the British cruiser HMS Indefatigable and later HMS Queen Mary. The German battlecruisers steamed south, hoping to draw the British towards the main of the High Seas Fleet. SMS König spotted the 1st Scouting Group and the British 1st Battlecruiser Squadron approaching, and a minute later they opened fire. Kaiser fired 11 salvos at HMS Southampton without scoring a hit, and once Southampton went back into range, Kaiser opened fire again, yet scoring no hits. A hit that Kaiser did score on the British was on HMS Warspite, damaging its steering gear, which forced the battleship to sail around in circles with no control. A hit that Kaiser did take was from HMS Agincourt, which one shell hit the upper deck and hit a hammock stowage compartment and shattered on impact, dealing no significant damage, only starting a fire that was easily put out. The other shell that hit was more unknown, and historians speculate that maybe it had detonated outside the ship. A subsequent operation that Kaiser took part in was to bombard the British coastal town of Sunderland in an attempt to draw out the British battlecruisers. Moltke and von der Tann, supported by 3 dreadnoughts, were to destroy the battlecruisers, trailed by the rest of the fleet, which included Kaiser. SMS Kaiser also took part in an expedition to assist 2 U-boats, U-20 and U-30, that were stranded by the west coast of Denmark. Once the High Seas Fleet was reorganized, the entire Kaiser-class battleships were put in the new 4th Squadron, and following the reinstating of unrestricted submarine warfare, they were tasked with coverage of German U-boat departures and arrivals. Early September of 1917, the Kaiserliche Marine was to take the Baltic island of Ussel, or more specifically the Russian gun batteries on the Swartby Peninsula. A special unit was comprised of the flagship Moltke and the 4th Squadron. There were Divisions 4 and 5, while Division 5 had the 4 König-class battleships and had the new German battleship Bayern. Division 4 had all the Kaiser-class battleships in it, and 9 light cruisers, 3 torpedo boat flotillas, and a bunch of mine warfare ships. Opposing the German ships were the Russian pre-dreadnought Slava Tsesarevich, armored cruisers Bayan, Diana, and Admiral Makarov, 26 destroyers, and several torpedo boats and gunboats. By October, Kaiser, joined by Kaiserin and Prince Regent Luitpold, opened fire on the Russian emplacement on Cape Hunsort. Kaiser also fought the Russian destroyer Grom, which had been taken capture and tow, but was ultimately destroyed. Before the capture of Moon, Ussel, and Dagu, I think I said those names correctly, the special unit had been disbanded and Kaiser returned to Kiel. The ship then returned back to the North Sea by the 7th of November. Once Kaiser had conducted what was its final operations, Germany had agreed to surrender in 1918, and one of the conditions was that Germany had to intern most of the High Seas Fleet, and Kaiser was one of the ships to be interned. And then, Kaiser was scuttled at Scapa Flow. She slipped below the waves at 13:24. The wreck was then sold to Cox and Dank's shipbreaking company, where Kaiser was raised and towed to Rosyth, where the ship was finally broken up. And that's a wrap, and thanks for watching this far. And if you have any video ideas, then you can suggest me in the comments below, and I will hypothetically, accidentally on purpose, make a video on them if I choose to. And until next time.